It is Friday, November the 6th, 2020. I'm Anthony Hill, along here with my wife, Michelle Susbury Hill. Today we're going to be talking with Mr. Paul Parker. Now, we're located in Houston, Texas, and we're conducting this interview by telephone. And our interview is part of our project called Havin Conversations, Historical Perspectives of African Americans from Columbus, Texas. And now Michelle is going to start the conversation with our special guest.
Hi, I'm Michelle, and I would like to introduce Paul Parker. How are you today, Mr. Parker?
I'm doing just fine. I am certainly doing fine. I'm doing well.
Great. So before we start, I want to make sure we have your full name. What is your full name?
My full name is Paul Henry Parker.
Okay, and where do you currently live?
Currently, I live near down in Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay.
Live in the suburbs of Atlanta, a little town called Fairborn.
Okay. And when and where were you born?
I was born in Columbus, Texas.
Okay, when?
I was born in Texas in 1939.
Okay.
Now we know
March the 20th, 1939.
Yeah, now we know a lot of people from Columbus had nicknames. Now some people, like you may never know their real names, but we'd only know them by their nicknames. Did you have a nickname growing up in Columbus?
Well, I think my nickname was Henry P.P.
Oh.
Henry P.P. That's what some of the guys,
Okay.
I mean, Henry Parker.
Right.
Paul Parker.
Off your initials.
Yeah, my initials, yes.
Oh.
Henry P.P. Some guys call me that, yes.
So just tell us just a little background about your mom and dad.
Okay, my mom and dad, my dad's name was W.C. Parker. That means William Charles Parker. And my mom's name was Susie Parker. She was a Vincent before she married my dad, Parker. And we were connected with the Vincents, R.L. Vincent, Henry Vincent, and pretty much all the Vincent group,
Okay. Now, what part of Columbus did they live in? What part of town was that?
At that time, they called that part of town Freedman Town. There was two places where blacks lived. At that time, it was called Freedman Town. Over there where we were, that's where the schools were, and that's where the churches were. And then Sand Ridge would be over on the south side of Highway 90. That was called Sand Ridge.
Oh, wow. Do you
know
know any background about that significance of why it's called Freedman Town?
Well, I can't say exactly why I hadn't studied that point, but there was at one time, there was a little class distinction. You know how people use class distinctions over one place where one person lives at one place and the other one does not. We call it in philosophy ethnocentric, where you center your values towards your group, since the fact that all of the schools and churches was over there at Freedman Town. It gave people the idea that they had a social advantage over those who lived in Sand Ridge.
Okay.
At that time. Which divided us to some degree as a people. There's always something that's going to divide you, as a people.
Right. Okay. Now, what was life like for you? What about your brothers and sisters? How many brothers and sisters did you have?
Okay, I had two sisters and one brother. My older sister was named Julia May Parker, and then I had another second sister called Dorothy Parker, and then the brother was named William Charles Parker.
Okay.
Four of us.
Now, what was your relationship with them like growing up? Were you guys close?
Well, we kind of came from a close-knitted family. We didn't have a lot of money, But even though they didn't have money, we thought we were rich, I guess, based on what we had.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Right.
And the fact that we all went to school together.
Mm-hmm.
And the point was, back in those days, we went to segregated schools. And whites had their side of town, and we had our side of town.
Yeah.
And the fact is one thing that we had that gave us a social advantage to some degree was those black school teachers that we had.
Mm-hmm.
They were well educated.
Yeah.
I think most of them might have had their master's degrees in that Columbus High School.
Okay.
And then second to that, we didn't live that far from Prairie View.
Mm-hmm.
Prairie View was a school that was highly socially ranked back in those days. It was an agricultural school, and it was an engineering school, and it taught military science.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And with that kind of background, you know, you could actually, if you understood that kind of background, you could grow up to be pretty successful.
Yeah.
And that Prairie View was a branch of Texas A&M.
Mm-hmm.
Which Texas A&M was the oldest white school in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And so Prairie View is older than the university. Prairie View is older. It came up in 1876.
Mm-hmm.
And the oldest black school we had was in Texas called Paul Queen.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, right.
Paul Queen originated in Austin at the time.
Mm-hmm.
That was an African Methodist school. And then I think the second, that was 1871.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think Wiley College, that was debated against Harvard.
Mm.
That was 1872. That was a CME Methodist church school.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and of course, then again, Wiley, the Texas Southern is a branch of Wiley.
Oh,
Which was the only, it was a branch moved to Houston in 1971. 1970, I think it was 47, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's when Texas Southern, and that was the only school that you could go there, and I think you would get a master's degree, and you could also go to law school in other parts. That was a pretty high-ranked school, Texas Southern.
Wow. Did a lot of folks from Columbus, students from Columbus, go to those schools?
Yeah, well, yes, back in those days,
Mm-hmm.
I would think that at some time in life, maybe 50%.
Oh, wow.
Maybe I'm making high rank now.
Mm-hmm.
50% of the kids who came out of Columbus School at one time was going to college.
Okay.
And if you was a boy, you probably would wind up, if you didn't have money to go to college, you wind up going to the military.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, were a lot of teachers from those schools in Columbus?
You say what now?
Were there a lot of teachers from Prairie View and those historically black colleges, universities? Were they teachers in Columbus?
Well, yes, in Columbus, and then, most of the teachers that we had in Columbus, I think, was coming from Austin, Houston, Tillerson, and because Austin had others when Paul Queen went to Waco. Mm-hmm. Houston, Tillerson, and there was two colleges, one called Houston and the other one's called Tillerson, and they merged together. I think Betty went to Houston Tillerson.
Okay. Yes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. It was about Miss Betty Sussberry.
Yeah, that was kind of a liberal arts school. Mm-hmm. And you could really get a good liberal art background going to those schools like that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were connected with the church too. Those schools were.
Okay. Huh.
But at one time, we in blacks had more colleges than whites had. Mm. And at one time, because you see, the whites only had one college and that was Texas A&M.
Mm-hmm.
And blacks must have more or less had, let's see, they had Prairie View, they had Wiley, and then they had Paul Queen. They must have had 4 or 5 colleges before whites had a second college.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So they were probably better educated than the whites at that.
All right.
And so then what whites did was, whites then began to notice that, and then they began to recruit white people from Europe, Germans particularly, to come in and balance the white race to the black race in Texas.
Okay. Wow. Pretty interesting. That's really interesting.
Yeah. Texas was a little different than Louisiana and those other southern states. And slavery at one time, it wasn't on the same level. Because you see, Texas was controlled by Mexico. And that was Catholic, and at that time the Catholic Church didn't believe in slavery. So Texas was a little different culture than Louisiana and Mississippi and those states.
Okay.
So the standard of education in Texas for blacks was probably, the literacy rate was, they had the highest literacy rate in the United States at one time. Blacks did in Texas.
Oh, wow.
But then again, integration kind of made a difference.
Okay.
Integration began to make some changes.
That came around in, I don't know, Brown versus Board of Education was 1954 or somewhere around there. But how did that come around Columbus?
Brown versus Topeka, that started in San Antonio.
Oh, okay.
The state of Texas respected the law. And also South Texas, Victoria, and those places also integrated.
Okay.
But they integrated. But you know what happened when the integration took place to some degree. They went in, and a lot of those exceptionally good teachers we had, they replaced them with white teachers.
Okay.
So we began to lose, blacks began to lose some of the social advantages that they had.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about the employment that took place. Like, what did your parents do, your mom and dad, and maybe your grandparents, if you know, and then what did you come to do later on?
Okay, well, the family that I came from, the Vincent family, they came from north of the river, and those people were farmers, all the way up to New Elm, all up in that area. They came from that area, and of course the Sand Ridge area, they came from the Altar, close to Altar, and those areas. So it was mostly farming. Farming was the culture. That was the only way a lot of people could make money, and that's what my family did. We picked cotton, we pulled corn, we picked pecans. We did any kind of agriculture work because agriculture was the norm in that area. There wasn't no industry in there. But then there were some other things that might have taken place. There was the railroad, Southern Pacific Railroad. There were a lot of blacks who worked up there around Glidden because that was a roundhouse. And then there was another place where black folks could get jobs at the gravel, because you had a gravel pit there that provided, called Parker Brothers Gravel Pit, that provided jobs for blacks. But for the most part, black people did some form of agriculture work. It was either picking cotton or doing some work like that. that's I used to pick cotton during the summer. And then at that time, I remember we would get paid $3 a hundred. So that would be my little school money, picking cotton and stuff like that,
And you said it was $3 a bundle?
Well, you pick cotton and you got paid by the pound.
Okay.
And I became a real good cotton picker. And we would compete with one another. I think Robert Lloyd Warren was a real good cotton picker, and we used to be in contests with one another.
So I imagine it took a lot of cotton to make a pound.
Yeah, I mean, we could pick 300 and 400 pounds of cotton a day.
Whoa.
Wow.
Yeah. It's just like though cotton was the norm in the state. Cotton was big in Texas, and there was other things that was big in Texas agriculture. You pick pecans, you pull corn. You're gonna always do something to make some money. And just like Anthony's father, Melvin, they lived on a farm just north of Columbus. And I used to go out there with them and his mom and grandmother them. And he had some, so the boy, he had some wonderful people, Miss Puma and them. I go out there, and Melvin was one of my better friends. So I also would go out there and swim. They had a swim in the river out there with Melvin.
Okay.
We would hunt. Melvin would show us how to hunt. Shoot rabbits and stuff.
Oh, wow. I didn't know he could shoot. He could shoot.
Yeah, we learned how to shoot, man. We learned how to shoot wild games and stuff like that. And, and when deer season was on, the state of Texas would automatically give young people's license to hunt deer.
Okay.
So but I never really got a deer. But it was available for you to kill deers if you wanted to. And of course, then again, deer was so plentiful in Texas because I used to do certain work as hauling hay. I think Mr. Betty's father, Mr. Susbury, he used to hire young people to haul hay. And but you had to haul that hay, and then I can remember, and then you had to put that hay in barns and places. So it might be you could see maybe 100 deers in herds at that time when it wasn't deer season. But when deer season come up, then you didn't see no deer. It was kind of hard to see them. The deer knew that people was coming to kill them.
That's something else. Now, how far can you go back with your family's history in Columbus?
Okay, now I go back to as much as I go back to the people that was common to me, my grandfather and grandmother. My grandfather was called Robert Vincent. And then my grandmother's was named Ophelia Vincent. And my grandfather had a sister called Liza Vincent. Liza was the one that church down there. She owned that property there. Liza was a midwife. Just about all black kids that were born in Columbus, she pretty much delivered them.
Okay.
Liza. And she was a highly religious woman, Liza. And Brother Bedford, the one that was pastor of that church, that was his mother.
Oh, okay.
Liza.
Now, which church are you referring to?
That what's the name of that church? They changed names of that church. It used to be a Church of Christ, but it turned over to, it was the Church of Christ. It changed over to another name. What's the name of it? Oh my God. Oh boy.
Is that on Highway 71 side? What was that?
It's their name now. What's the name of that church on that corner? Over there.
There's the First Church.
71 hour.
There's a First Church of the Nazarene. There's a First Church.
That's the one you went to.
I went to the First Church of the Nazarene.
It was the Nazarene. Yeah,
yes.
It was the Nazarene.
Yes. Yes.
That's what the family did. The family they were connected with Holy Church of Christ, and then they changed it over to Nazarene.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And your relative, your I don't know if that was your grandparents. Somebody said Miss Eliza had something to do with that.
Eliza Benson. She was strong inside of that church.
Okay.
And there was another church over there on the corner of 71 Highway. Mr. Florence Miller.
Okay.
Because we were connected with the Miller family. Mr. Florence Miller was the minister of that church.
Okay.
And that's where a lot of the religion started out of that church.
Okay.
It was the Church of Christ. We as kids go over there, and they start you off in the Bible. So starting you off, you had to learn all the books in the Bible.
Okay.
Yeah, Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Deuteronomy. You had to learn all of it.
Yeah.
And all of those old ladies with long dresses, they was the teachers.
Now, I remember in the church I went to at the First Church of the Nazarene was Miss Luella Pollock, and she was a very significant influence as well when I was growing up in that church.
Well, that's St. Liza's daughter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she's my first cousin.
Okay.
Cousin Luella.
Yes.
Yeah, we all connected in that together, family.
Okay.
Cousin Luella, that's Pollock's mother. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But now you had a good foundation because the whole system of education is connected with the church. Because the church is where pretty much the education centers came from. Started from the church to the college, and then from the college to the public schools.
Okay.
And surgery. And Prairie View was a state school. So based on Prairie View being a state school, all of the standards of black education were cultivated around the Prairie View culture. In other words, if your district if you were participating and competing in mathematics, something like that, where you compete against LaGrange and Flatonia and all of those schools, Bastrop, all those schools. If you won your district, then you had to go compete another district in Prairie View. That was a state school.
Okay.
Or whether it would be in whether it was going to be in whatever you was competing with. And Prairie View was an agriculture school. Prairie View, and as a boy, you had to take agriculture from the 9th grade to the 12th grade. So you was taught animal science. From the 9th to the 12th, you was taught animal science, the breeds of hogs, the breeds of cattle. You had to be taught all that stuff. And then you was taught shop. The boy was taught how to build houses and stuff like that in shop. And then on top of that, he was taught Robert rules of order.
Oh, wow. How to run a meeting.
How to run
an organizational meeting.
Yeah, we taught that Robert rules of order, how to set up a president, a vice president, a treasurer. We was taught all of that stuff.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then we would go to Prairie View and compete with other schools.
Okay.
But when Prairie Prairie View, when integration took place, Prairie View no longer became a state school.
Mm.
So education became different.
Okay.
And Prairie View didn't play.
Mm-hmm.
When you come out of Prairie View, if you was a pretty smart kid,
Mm-hmm.
if you was a boy particularly, you probably was going to go over there in engineering or something.
Mm-hmm.
And then from that, you were going to be in ROTC.
Okay.
And from ROTC, you coming out of there second lieutenant.
Okay, right.
That's why you see that Prairie View is second to West Point in producing generals.
Okay. Okay. What are you talking about, like African American generals or black generals?
You got more black generals in America that came out of Prairie View than any other college.
Oh, wow. Pretty good. Okay. Now,
But I don't know what the situation is today. Like I say, under the integration of school, things begin to change.
Right.
For instance, your school teachers, a teacher, in my opinion, is second to God.
Mm-hmm.
Because what they do is that they put you on the right path.
Mm-hmm.
And if you get a good school teacher, like your wife at a young level age in life, you got a foundation under you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
You got a good foundation from the first to the third grade. Then you got smooth sailing. Then you can do fourth grade work, fifth grade work. You can kind of work your way up.
Mm-hmm.
But if you miss out on third grade work, you can't catch up, man, pretty much.
Okay. You're saying those critical stages are first through third grade.
Yeah, and so that's why you see in those inner cities, a lot of boys particularly, they wind up in the penitentiary. Because they can't do fourth grade work.
Mm-hmm.
They can't do fifth grade work. They can't read well. They don't know their math.
Mm-hmm.
And they become socially ostracized and join gangs and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, that's the problem there.
Right. Okay.
And up in where y'all was living up in Chicago, that probably became maybe one of the worst cities in the United States, because what had happened was a lot of more blacks in Mississippi. Mississippi had more black people than any state in the nation.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason for it was Mississippi had the most fertile land for growing cotton. And cotton was gold.
Mm-hmm.
America, 60% of export and import was cotton at one time.
Okay. Wow.
So what they would do is that's where they would bring the slaves from other states and other parts to Mississippi to live, to pick cotton.
Mm-hmm.
And what made Mississippi so rich in cotton, the Mississippi River runs through there.
Mm-hmm.
It's called the Delta, Mississippi Delta.
Mm-hmm.
So that land become more fertilized than any other part of the United States.
Okay.
Because you see, that river runs through there and brings a lot of fertilizer in there that fertilizes the ground.
Okay.
So the slave masters, that's where they would dwell in order to take advantage of that rich cotton soil. So you could grow maybe about 2 to 3 bales of cotton an acre in that part of the country.
Okay. Well,
so Mississippi was the richest state in the nation.
Okay.
And so the Civil War made a change, that was one of the reasons why the Civil War took place. They began to lose those slaves, and then they came up with methods to keep the slaves there so they could continue to pick the cotton by coming up with what we call Jim Crow. Jim Crow, that was called segregation but equal.
Okay.
They called it. Yeah. So that was the Mississippi.
Yeah.
So we lived under Jim Crow, brother. Segregation but equal.
Mm-hmm.
But personally, I enjoyed that better than integration myself.
Okay. What did that look like in Columbus at that time? The separate but equal.
Well, in Columbus, based on you got your black churches.
Mm-hmm.
And at that time, you must have had about 5 different churches in Columbus.
Okay.
You had the CME Methodist Church.
Mm-hmm.
You had the Baptist Church.
Mm-hmm.
You had the Church of Christ.
Mm-hmm.
You had a Holy Church, or what they call it,
Church of God and
Church of Christ, Church of God and Christ.
Mm-hmm.
Then later the Nazarene.
Mm-hmm.
You had all of those churches, and then blacks had businesses too in Columbus.
Mm-hmm.
You had the only business, what they call a truck stop business, because trucking was a black man's job,
Mm-hmm.
driving trucks up and down the highway. So the only truck stop that was black in the state of Texas on Highway 90
Mm-hmm.
was owned by Mr. Joe Robinson.
Okay.
Mr. Joe Robinson, that is where Miss Irene's old mother worked at.
Who was that again?
And Logan's mother, Irene.
Oh, it was Irene Woodard.
Yeah, Woodard, yeah. She worked over there for Mr. Joe Robinson.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And then he also owned another restaurant right up the streets. And he also owned a service station up there.
Mm-hmm.
And then he had some motels up there.
Okay.
But that wasn't no place for blacks to live. He owned the motels.
Mm-hmm.
And then he also taught school.
Oh, wow.
Miss Lizzie Robinson and Mr. Joe.
Yes.
They taught schools up in Glidden. And those kids from Glidden they came from junior high to high school, and then they went to high school in Texas, in Columbus.
Okay.
And all of those kids, man, was almost like straight A students.
Mm. Yes, I do remember.
Miss Hooney
Mm-hmm.
was Miss Lizzie Robinson's sister.
Oh, okay, I remember that lady. Her name was Miss Margaret Freeman.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Miss Lee Norman.
Yes.
That was one of the sisters.
Okay. Oh.
Miss Lee Norman was a music instructor.
Yes, I remember her playing for the
And
National
I took piano lessons under her when I was about 4 years old.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Did you continue to play piano?
Well, what happened is the piano, I switched over to a baritone horn.
Ah, okay.
And then from that I went to a trombone.
Ah, okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you just
So I kind of.
do you still know how to play?
Well, when you get to the 9th grade, and a boy, Columbus at that time was cultivated to go into sports.
Mm-hmm.
So you put your music down to go into sports.
Oh, okay.
But the question is, it is very good for a young person to have a liberal art background.
Mm-hmm.
And music is one of the greatest liberal art backgrounds that you could have. At least I had something.
Yes.
In music, that kind of sets you up for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
I had something, music, and if you can get some music underneath you, you can get some pretty good grammar skills.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's another thing. We had one of the best English teachers probably in the state of Texas, Miss Harris.
Okay, Miss Harris. Okay.
Miss Harris was one of the best.
Okay.
You knew how you could read good, you could write good, and you could speak well, and you could also what you guys are doing now, essays and stuff like that. She make you write an essay almost every day, and she take it home, and she would determine what you did wrong and what you did right. So a lot of them essays I made up, and it looked like blood, and blood. She make
Do you remember her first name, Miss Harris?
Mrs. Harris. Okay, now I don't know her first name. Miss Harris and Miss Dillard were sisters.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Miss Dillard and Miss Harris were sisters.
Okay.
But all of Miss Harris's kids had PhD degrees. Mm-hmm. Especially Markman, who had a PhD degree in physics.
Wow.
He was over Texas Southern. He was the backbone of Texas Southern.
What was his name again?
Markman Harris.
Mark
Harris. Yeah, Markman Harris. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Markman Harris, yeah. And then we had a Herbert. Herbert had a PhD degree in music.
Oh, wow.
And then Maxine had a PhD degree in music. And then I think Earl had a PhD degree. I can't see what he was down here at Morehouse.
Okay. Oh.
So she had some of the smartest kids, that you... And then another advantage in Columbus was you went to school with smart kids. Mm-hmm. That also was kind of a help to those who was behind.
Okay, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You have to have some leadership skills. Mm-hmm. So if you can go to school with kids that are smart, that kind of help impress others to be smart.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. It's just like Vera T. Vera T was the smartest girl in my class. Mm-hmm. Okay, so everybody's trying to hang around Vera T. And that was a test. Okay. There was a test going on. And Leon Vincent was the smartest boy in my class.
Okay.
Yeah, Leon. Mm-hmm. Leon and I was in competition with one another for a long time. But from the 9th grade, I think Leon, I kind of dropped back. Mm-hmm. And Leon kind of went ahead of me. But then, Leon actually came up to me and asked me a question, what's wrong, Paul, Okay. But I think I was taking on some family problems at that time. I was rejecting, especially like a boy gets in his teenagers. Mm-hmm. I was going through some experiences that some people didn't understand. Mm-hmm. But Leon went ahead of me. Mm-hmm. And he went on, and they gave him the valedictorian of the class, which they should have gave to Verity.
Oh, wow. Now, who's Verity? What's her last name?
Yeah, I think Verity became damaged behind that.
Oh, wow.
you know that social ostracism is it hurts a kid to know that he or she was the smartest, and you give it to somebody else.
Okay. Now, what was Verity's last name? Who was that? Verity
Haynes. She lived right on the side of Betty George. Every time you see Betty, you see Vera.
Oh, wow. They were like best friends, huh?
Yeah, they best friends. They live right next door.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, Verity was a lot taller than Betty, and Betty was like the little midget on the Both of them together, boy.
Okay. One thing I want to go to now, when it came to people, I guess around your era, graduating from Columbus and leaving school and venturing off. Some people stayed in Columbus and made their lives there. Some other folks, they left, they journeyed off and found their life elsewhere. What inspired you to leave or stay in Columbus?
Well, based on the fact that I had a choice, and I saw my friends going to college. Mm-hmm. And at one time, I got trapped in a situation where my grandfather had promised me that he was going to send me to college in San Francisco. And he passed away the same year I graduated out of high school.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So all of that that blowed in the wind.
Yeah.
So now I'm trapped. So I laid around. So I winds
Okay. Yeah.
That's how I got in there. And then what happened was I had did some work in a little down in Garwood, Utah, or what's it called, oil care. They had a rice thing down there. And so what had happened was I laid around and worked too long down there.
Okay.
And the semester. And so when I did get back in school, all of the subjects that I needed was taken.
Okay. Yeah.
So I figured, well, hell, I'll go back to school the next semester. So in between that time, a friend of mine asked me to ride to Nebraska with him, named Fridgell.
Okay.
So I winds up right. He said, well, I'll be back next week. This is right around Christmas time because I knew I'm going back to school in January. And I got money in the bank laying back to go. So in between that time, we goes to Nebraska. And I winds up in Nebraska with him, he and another guy. And those guys were big time drinkers. I wasn't so much used to that. And so we was all together, so we just, so the unity that we had to have unity to survive up there. So I spent that money that I had for my tuition to go back to school. So now I'm trapped now. I ain't going back home because I'm too proud to go back because they told me not to go in the first place. You know. So what I did is got myself a job in between the work. You know, that's what I did. So I worked, and the next thing I know, I wind up buying myself a car. You know, bought myself a Oldsmobile, and then traded that in on a '57 Chevy.
Okay.
I'm coming up in the world, you know.
Yeah.
Now I'm making good money, got my own apartments and stuff like that. And then I winds up, I had a responsibility when I began to start working and making that kind of money. I began to make money and send it back home. Because then I had a brother that had finished high school.
Okay. Yeah.
And then he's trying to go over to Prairie.
Okay. Yeah.
So I'm trying to help him out, you know. You know, in between that time, and then I winds up, while I'm working, I winds up going to Omaha University, you know, part-time, you know, while working. So then I winds up getting a job at John Deere.
Okay. Yeah.
At that time, John Deere was a company that you could work your way up in that company. At that time, it was a company kind of set up for white boys, white people. You didn't have too many blacks. But what they did is, at that time, they concentrated on advancing within the company. You start in the company, and you work hard and show improvement, and you could move up and advance in the company. And I concentrated strong on that. But in the 60s, all that changed. Those kind of jobs like that, you had to have college degrees to get those jobs starting in the 60s. Because of affirmative action, government began to take over programs. And the government, so those companies then required that you had a college degree in order to get some jobs. So they changed. So then I wind up going to another school called Bellevue. That's where I went to Bellevue, and I had in my mind at that time I wanted to be a politician. So it was one of the best sociology schools in the state of Nebraska. So what I would do, I must have took over 100 and something hours just in sociology. Because what they had set up there was if you took in social welfare and all that kind of stuff, then they had it set up where you could also practice that sociology along with going to school.
Okay.
You learn to understand crime in society. You spend time in the prisons and stuff like that to understand about the penitentiaries and things. If you wanted to understand about the culture of the Indians and stuff like that, you spend time on Indian reservation. They wanted to educate you along with experience.
Okay.
And I think that's what real education is you get some tools to work with when you go into school, but you got to go out there in the field with some experience to get the education.
Yes.
That's probably what you have to do. And that's how they had it set up.
Okay.
But that was a part of it. Then I began to do some things, even in that company. I became heads of the unions and stuff like that. I got a lot of experience in that area. And then I began to go into some businesses. I had access to a restaurant. Then from a restaurant, I had a small business service and teaching people how to manage business and stuff like that. I started off with 3 in the company with 3 Jews that owned them. So my job was to sell them to small business.
Okay.
So what they finally did is put my name as the head of it, and I had a small business service.
Oh, nice.
And then from that, my brother came up. He taught school up there. He taught Black history up there. And then from Black history up there, he went into the city in what they call EEO. One of those companies, EEO program for the city. And then from that, he left there and went into business himself. He bought a liquor store and a grocery store.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So we kind of played around with that together, But Omaha at that time was a good area to grow up in because it was a good flourishing ground to develop because it wasn't as much class distinction because most of those white people ethnic. They were white ethnics like Germans and Irish and Bohemians and Italians. So up in Omaha, you could actually wind up going out to lunch or dinner. You go out with the mayor of the city. So those kind of things didn't have as much social. If you lived in a large city, it would be difficult to do that. And so I became a real good I was a good tennis player coming out of Columbus.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I was the one that really brought tennis to the culture up there in the Black community in Omaha.
Okay.
Tennis, and then I was a good golfer.
All right. Yeah.
So between golf and tennis, that was some high ranks right there. You can move up like that culturally and socially. So I became a tennis coach there, and then later I became a golf coach.
Okay. Oh, nice.
Where did you learn how to play tennis and golf? Did you learn that in Columbus, or did you pick that up later?
Okay, tennis. I learned how to play tennis in Columbus. Tennis started in Columbus in 1949. You had a black man who came from Lockhart, Texas, called Fate Harris. He brought tennis to Columbus, and he taught me how to play tennis. At that time, we didn't even have a tennis court in Columbus. He taught us, and we got a group of young boys together, and we went out and got some flat soil on the ground with holes and shovels and chopped it clean. Then we got lines to make the lines. And then from the lines, we went to Western Idaho and got a net. And he only had 2 rackets. And those rackets were made So when a catgut broke, one of those strings broke, we had to order catguts, and we would order those catguts from Sears and Roebuck. Okay, so now, from that, we became some of the best tennis players in the state of Texas. Blacks and Columbus.
Wow.
Who did you play with? Do you remember the names of the people you played tennis with?
Leon Benson, Frank Price, Leon Benson, Thomas Charles Perkins, then Boise Thomas, and I got good enough. Boise Thomas was the champ in 1952, and I got good enough to beat him as a youngster in 52.
Wow.
You know, the thing about it was in Columbus, public school in Columbus was almost like a private school. The culture of Prairie View was a real high standard. It was on the same level of Texas A&M.
Okay.
So you could learn the same thing that upper class whites could learn.
Okay.
White tennis players, you can learn it too. You see what I'm saying? You can learn those upper class. Those kind of sports was upper class. Now for golf, I learned how to play golf for caddy.
Okay. Caddy.
I started caddying over there at that Columbus golf course.
Okay.
I had to borrow the idea from somewhere, so that's where I got the idea. So I became a pretty good caddy.
Okay.
And then from that to caddy, my daddy a job over there. That's the day they call it a superintendent job. That is building greens and doing things over there on the golf course. So whenever they needed workers over there, I became a part-time worker over there on the golf course.
Okay. Ah.
That's how I got into golf.
Oh, nice. Okay.
You know,
Do you remember the names of the people you played golf with?
It wasn't nobody in Columbus that you could play golf. I was probably the first boy, or one of the first boys in Columbus that played golf at that time.
Okay.
Because you have to look at the fact that segregation was the norm. At least we thought it was the norm. Blacks playing golf in Columbus. But based on the fact that integration started in Columbus in 1954, it was a pretty good sign that I might have been able to play in 1954, but you didn't know that. So if you don't know something like that, you make an attempt to play. But when I went to Nebraska up there, I started playing golf in Nebraska and became one of the best young golfers up there. My name was in the paper, all that kind of stuff. As a golfer, so what I did is came back to Columbus. And my brother also coming in and up there, he come out of Prairie View for the month instead. He became a good golfer. So what he did is he went back to Columbus and integrated that golf course.
Oh, okay.
In 1962. So he integrated that golf course in 1962. And then the next year, I came up there and played on Columbus Golf Course.
Oh, okay.
So we began to play in Weimar. We would play in the golf tournaments. Yeah, we became recognized, in Columbus as golfers,
Okay. Wow.
And of course, then again, golf was kind of a culture that was segregated from the lower culture of whites. So you see, you're not running into as much racism. You pretty much, it kind of puts you in a position where you can avoid a lot of racial problems when you're dealing with people with money and education.
Okay.
It kind of puts you in a position that you are free from that.
Yeah.
Or another thing, or if that does happen, the social activists, once you know your history, that's history is the study of your past. And once you know your history, you understand the origin of a problem, and if you know that, you understand the reason cause. Once you start knowing your history, it gives you identity. It gives you pride, too. So someone tries to stop you from doing something, you know, you got a way of taking what you want. Especially if somebody's trying to take something from you in the wrong or right way.
Right.
You probably don't want to go for that.
Right.
And I always had the idea of something that was a taxpayer situation for blacks. I never really believed in going into a private place that was segregated from me. But if I knew something was paid by the state of tax, I'm going to take that.
Right.
You can't stop me from having that.
Right. Okay.
But I had to learn later in life that Martin Luther King stuff to me didn't make no sense. I think marching in the street, getting whipped and beat, and all that. I don't think you can get no integration like that. And so I go along with the philosophy of the African Methodist Church. Their philosophy was, what we're going to do is we're going to stay segregated, and we're going to control our school. We're going to educate our children. And then once our children become educated, they would be educated well enough to take care of all of the social events in life that they deal with. That was their philosophy. And even though segregation started in Texas in 1954 in San Antonio, I think that little town called Lockhart, Texas, they refused to integrate because it was a strong African Methodist town. And they felt that they were going to take their school teachers from them. You know, and even they did that in Columbus. Columbus had one of the finest music teachers in the state. His name was Harry. So what was he from Austin up there, I think. And what they did is they replaced him with a young white boy who had just came out of Texas A&M as the music teacher. So that's what I'm saying today. Integration kind of took a job on Texas. Now, you could go to those integrated schools and do well if you had strong identity. And strong identity and enough identity to demand for what you wanted. You know?
Now, I'm sure that's something you passed down to your children. What about your children? Did you?
Well, I had a boy and a girl. The girl, I'm really proud of what she is doing as the mom of her kids.
And what's her name?
She's her mind. What she did is she has raised up her 4 girls here, and in those 4 girls here, the ones here that I'm with here, and she's got a master's degree, and I think she's going on for a second master's. She works at Georgia Tech University, and the other second one I think has got an engineering degree out of Georgia State.
Okay.
Then the other 2 girls, I think the other girl, one of them is in real estate, and then the other one was going to school to be a doctor or something, you know. She was doing it for that, yeah.
Oh, wonderful.
But all of them have got expectations of doing things of high importance. I think that comes from the Columbus experience.
Okay. Right, the Columbus experience. Exactly.
Yeah. They come from the Columbus experience and passed on. You know, that Columbus, that's why I say Columbus. It was one of the greatest places to grow up in, I think.
Yes.
And so what it did going to do, you're going to be the best at what you can be.
Mm-hmm. There we go.
You didn't want to be, you wanted to be first class.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, you want to look good.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
There we go.
And Columbus had an experience there, culture experience. Their academics was very important at those Columbus schools.
Mm-hmm.
And then second to that, it was student leadership.
Mm.
You learned some leadership skills.
Mm-hmm.
And then third, you're going to play some sports or something if you're a boy.
Okay.
And you're going to be in music or something like that. And you girls, them girls were taught home economics and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next job was going to be a job.
Mm-hmm.
Working, you got to learn how to work.
Mm-hmm.
Because learning how to work, it teaches you how to work, how to get along with people, other people, while you're working. And, you know, you found unity that way.
Right.
And not only that, you learn how to make money because this is a capitalist system.
Okay.
You got to learn how to make a profit.
Right. Right. So you have a blueprint for education and work ethic. That's a good.
Yeah, you got that, and then but you know, you get pieces, little pieces there, but you got to continue to grow.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I went inside of the Masonic system.
Mm-hmm.
I learned a lot in Masons, and I went all the way up to the shrine.
Okay.
I got a 32nd degree in Mason, and I became a shrine.
Okay. There we go.
And so going through those kind of fraternities, and you got to continue to grow.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know, and Kiwanis, Elf, you go through those fraternities, and if you study those fraternities, but if you don't study, you just in something and doing nothing.
Right.
And that's where you find. That's where you find a lot of us as people, man. You know, he's a Mason, but he's an ignorant Mason. You know, well, he's an ignorant Mason. He just in something, calling himself something, but he ain't studied to do nothing.
Okay, right. Okay.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And that's what has happened, and you can see all evidence of it based on the social advantages our race is in. We as a people, we haven't improved by something like 1% economically and stuff like that since slavery.
Okay.
So that simply means that all the education our people have got, we haven't made no social advancement.
Okay.
We don't really own no businesses. You know, and we got the education, but we don't have the unity.
Okay.
You know, and of course, and then too, the ones who did get the education, what they came up with, and that started, a lot of education started for us in the 60s, through affirmative action, where you could borrow money and go to school. What happened? There was a backlash after that. And that backlash was started from drugs. Okay, it started from the Nixon administration drugs. And then from the drugs, it led to crack cocaine.
Okay.
Crack cocaine led to penitentiary. And it ran a lot of middle-class blacks away from the lower class. You see, the middle class had the education, and they was providing the leadership. But when you get the drugs, then the middle class begin to get broken, homes robbed, and all that kind of stuff. So then they're going to be going to the suburbs to get away from that group.
Okay.
And then that lower class group doesn't have enough on its own to sustain itself. So those communities begin to go down, and then those factories and stuff that used to be in those big cities like Chicago, it was mostly packing companies that was there, steel companies. And Chicago had about 6 or 7 big packing companies that was raise your children. So what happened is the system moved those packing houses out of there. Now, when you move those packing houses out of there, those same people are without a job. So now, they don't have no job. That causes crime. So now you got to understand where did those jobs go, especially packing companies. Most of those packing companies went to West Texas.
Okay.
Amarillo, in that area. And the reason why they went to Amarillo in that area was there's an underground ocean of water that runs from South Dakota through western Nebraska, to western Kansas, to western Oklahoma, all the way to West Texas. Underground water.
Okay.
So, and then at that part of Texas, it snows out there a lot. So that kind of soil out there could grow corn and wheat in that area. Now, you don't get much rain in that area, but by that water being there, they could irrigate. So what happened was, once the oligarchy, once the big oligarchy system, like the Rockefellers and DuPonts and people like that, they goes out there and buy that land up.
Okay.
Because they knew what was happening. So what they did is, they buy that land up, and now they can irrigate, because that water, they can pump that water that comes from all the way, that water's coming from the mountains up around South Dakota and all that, you see, and they can water that corn, they can water that wheat. And then, not only that, now, all of those cattle that they raise in Texas, they don't have to send those cattle up north to be fed. Because now we're growing corn in Texas, and we can wheat in Texas. And what we can do is feed those cattle. We can get a calf up to a certain price, and then we can put the corn on it and get him up to about 1,000 pounds or 2,000 pounds and kill him and then ship that meat all over the world. So Texas. So then we'll go to Mexico. And we can go get those workers from Mexico and cut the union out that the blacks were working under in Chicago.
Okay.
So now we got Mexican workers in that area. See how they did that? And they put those poor black people out of work in those areas like Chicago. Omaha was another package center. And Kansas City was another package center. So now once you put those black people out of work, and you got crime, all that kind of stuff that don't exist in those communities.
Okay.
Poor education. It becomes almost impossible for a kid to come out of high school and qualify to go to college with that kind of system.
All right. Okay.
You know.
Okay.
And so, you know. So that's what we're up against as a people. But I'm looking at this here Trump thing, and the fact that they tell the story here. I never thought that he's going to get that many votes.
Yes, it's record setting.
So what we can very well see as a people, he got a group of people who still love him.
Right. Yes.
And so what we got to do is we're going to have to learn how to stick together.
The unity.
Unity.
Now it sounds like you have a book with all your wisdom, your knowledge, your background. Sounds like you have a book in store that you can pass on that could be a guide for people within our communities to provide help with that unity.
Well, I kind of think, I guess so. And all you can, so I'm grateful. That's another thing. I'm grateful that we got a group of young, educated people like you and your wife that could take that and make these books and stuff. You know, and put these books together. And the knowledge that some of our older people have, it needs to be passed on.
Yes.
And become useful.
Okay. Exactly.
You see, most of our older people, a lot of them are gone.
Mm-hmm.
Or they're in such physical condition they can't do much.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the thing about it is, they're gone. But my main objective now is I'm selling the idea of holistic principles that one can use to enhance themselves. Holistic approach to life simply means you're going to eat the right foods. You're going to cut out the drinking and the smoking and the things that's harmful to yourself. That is, you see them saying a lot of our people are trapped into that. Obese, high blood pressure, and all those kind of things. You know, I'm selling the idea of the four elements of life. And in those four elements of life represent the earth. The earth represents the physical, which is your foundation. That is where you need to develop yourself, what foods to eat, and how to take care of your body so that your body is healthy and strong. Second to that is water. Water is simply culture representing your morality. You want to keep yourself clean, or you're no problem to yourself or your neighbor. And then third, which is fire. Fire is a representation of your wisdom, which is a pleasure. You just be talking to you two people with the idea of making this book. I have to give you credit for that. This is your idea, and I love you both for even coming up with this idea about Columbus and write this book. I'm just so pleasured. You know, both of you two is almost like my children in terms of what I would think like. Okay, I got that from Columbus.
Yes, you're right. Yes.
So that's how you raise us up. We can become raised up with the knowledge of how to become physical, moral training. And then the next thing would be to be educated enough to raise yourself up. And the next one is to become spiritual.
Yes. Yes.
Which I call air. You're spiritual. And you've been told personally that once you become a man, and I think a lot of it, they express it a man, they call man's man, that he then would have dominion over the earth once you became a man. But you wouldn't become a man until you develop yourself under those four laws. The earth,
yes,
your water, your fire, which is your wisdom, and your air. And so fire symbolizes wisdom because anything that would enter fire will reduce it. You get an in, so anything doesn't make any difference that enter fire would reduce it, except one element, gold. It will melt the gold, and the gold will hold on to its purity. So the gold is a symbol of the truth.
Yeah, truth is golden.
So those four elements is your law. That's the physical law, the moral law, the intellectual and spiritual law. That is the law. And if you disobey any one of those laws, you're not going to come out too good.
Okay.
So that's the only thing that we can do as a black race of people. We can't compete with these white folks economically. Because they got resources and such great head starts on us. But if we can develop ourselves physically, morally, intellectually, and spiritually, we can move ahead of them.
Yes. That is
because even though they're weak in religion, the religion that they're in, they're weak people. You can see they're weak from the president all the way down. They're weak.
Yes.
The education system is weak. And the religious system is weak. So what we have to do is concentrate on the physical, keeping yourself strong, eating the right food and exercise, keeping your body up, you know. And of course, then again, you guys have already made y'all players. You're retired now. You got a good education. And so y'all can do almost anything y'all want to do, but please stay healthy.
That's outstanding wisdom to pass down.
Stay healthy, because if you don't do that, education and stuff that you got won't amount to nothing.
Right.
Yeah, because, you know, you could be kicking the butt. I'm 81 years old now. You know, and I'm still hanging on, you know, but, you know, so my objective is to make 100.
There you go. All right.
Yeah, absolutely.
I want to make 100. But here's the deal. I don't want to be taking a whole lot of pills and stuff at 100.
Right.
So I want to go to the health spa and work out and stuff. Keep myself looking good, you know. That's what I want to do. And, you know, for as medical, you go get your checkups, make sure that you're in good standing. But that's how you want to do it. Then you can enjoy it every time.
There you go. Exactly.
Y'all up on the 18th floor looking down.
Out here in Houston, Texas. Yes.
You done your thing, you know. And y'all got away from all that stuff there in Chicago, man.
We're back here in Texas. Yes, and we're back down near the country. Back to our roots.
Yeah, you back to your roots. You got the good life there, you know.
Yes. And so for this part, we just like to thank you for sharing your time with us for now, sharing your story, your family life with us, providing us with your journey, your perspective of life and community in Columbus, and your journey beyond Columbus. And so if there's a chance for a part 2, we'd like to get back with you. If you think of something else that we'd like to discuss and talk about, we'd like to do a part 2 with you.
Okay, well, you know, anytime that we can do that, I'm always willing. Because like I say, it's from a spiritual connection there. I think that Columbus was such a great place, man, to come from. So you go, think about Columbus, there was such good people there in Columbus. I go up on the hill, I go up there, and Miss Isola, them up, that woman just like a mother up there, you know, at that time. And then Mr. Daniel, all of these people were just good people. To grow up around those kind of people, oh my God. And then you compare all of these crooks that are down in these larger cities. Right. Man, they know. Man, I had a whole lot of mothers and stuff. And you know, and then I go back there, some people passed away, man. Hell, I find that the principal of the school was over in the house. He's over there hipping out what he can do. Yes. And then Miss Fitzgerald.
Yes, Miss Fitzgerald.
She's in there washing dishes and stuff. You know, when Mom passed. You know, and then, you know, it's just a wonderful experience to have had those kind of people around you.
Yes. Yes.
And so that's one of the reasons why I was able to do. Now I had a lot of. My sister had some kids there. You know those kids that my sister had. Reggie.
Yes.
And Gigi. And Mike. And Debbie.
Yes.
And what the other one named, that last one?
Stephanie.
Well, those kids did well too, man.
Yes.
Stephanie went to Stanford. And she became an electrical engineer. And then Debbie became a lawyer. I think she's up in Boston. She went to University of Texas Law School. And Reggie spent about 40 years in the military.
Okay.
Yeah. Mike, but thing about it is most of them passed away. I mean, Sue passed away, Mike passed away, and Stephanie passed away.
Yes.
But coming back to Columbus was how they were able to acquire that type of educational skills.
Yes.
Coming back to to Columbus.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Because at the time they were out there in California, and my sister called me up and told me that she wasn't gonna make it out there.
Mm-hmm.
They had gotten into a divorce,
Mm-hmm.
and I told her, I said, well, you could either come to Omaha where I'm at, or you can move back to Columbus.
Mm-hmm.
She chose to move back to Columbus.
Yeah.
At least she was able to raise her children. So.
Yes. And I remember that time. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, so the thing about this history stuff that y'all are doing, I'm very impressed that you would even have the idea to do stuff like this.
Oh, yes. For sure.
In that sense. Now you're carrying on, you're giving back.
Exactly. Yeah. But we want to thank you for your participation too. Okay.
Well, yeah, thank you so much. And so anything else I can do to pleasure you guys and what you're doing, I certainly would be available to do it. You got my number.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing about it is the next thing I'm going to be able to do is this virus has got me shut down from travel.
Right. That's coronavirus, COVID-19.
I don't want to catch this virus. They tell me.
You don't want it.
They tell me when you get AIDS, you can't get rid of it, but I sure don't want to get it, So
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's what I'm doing, is I'm having patience and trying to prevent myself from doing that.
There you go.
But I'm going to get back in that health spa and start working out, so I know that.
All right. That sounds good.
I got to do that, yeah.
Well, great to talk with you. We're going to stop the recording now.